Alright, so I'm back from seeing the Avengers Infinity War movie. And I figured since I made an entire video on the premise of the movie, that I should probably let you know what I thought of it after having seen it. So let's get into it. Alright, so Marvel's Avengers Infinity War. What can I say about it that doesn't include spoilers? Well, the short version is, I loved it. I think they did an excellent job of cramming so many characters into one movie, but yet each of them having a purpose and something to do to where it doesn't feel like it's bloated. The action was great, the CGI was great, and the villain was great. In my opinion, this is Marvel's best villain, hands down. At least from the ones that I've seen. Admittedly, I haven't watched every single Marvel movie. I haven't seen Black Panther, I haven't seen Doctor Strange, there may be a handful of others. But from the ones that I have seen, Thanos is the best villain. It's not even close. And I've heard it said that Marvel movies don't really have very good villains. Well, they do now. They made him more complex and interesting than I thought that they would. His motivation isn't for power or to kill people just for the sake of killing them. No, his motivation is that he honestly believes that what he is doing is for the greater good. And I have to give the actor Josh Brolin props and credit for this. He really sold it. There were a lot of surprises in the film, and I was genuinely surprised and pleased by that. Now, admittedly, I'm not a comic book reader. I am not familiar with the source material, so I can't say whether comic readers already knew what was going to happen or not, or if anyone else was surprised by the events of the film. I get the feeling that, in my viewing at least, others were surprised simply from the reactions. Would I recommend this film? Absolutely. And that's coming from someone who's not really into comic books or superheroes. To me, they make good summer movies, but that's about it. But this one was an excellent movie. For it's been said that a superhero movie is only going to be as good as the villain that they're fighting. And that certainly is the case here. I went to this movie because of the premise. That in the trailer, Thanos said that he had to rebalance the universe by killing off half the population of the universe. And I wanted to see how they treated that, because this is a problem. I do agree with the premise that mankind is out of balance, and it's mostly due to overpopulation. So I was very curious as how they were going to portray Thanos and his motivations. And I have to say, I was very impressed with how they went about it. And I think that's all I can really say without getting into spoilers, which we are going to do now. So if you haven't seen the movie and you don't want things to be spoiled for you, this is a good time to click away. And I'm going to take a moment before I get into how it all went down, because I don't want to spoil it for anyone who doesn't want to know. So again, click away now if you don't want to be spoiled on the latest Avengers movie, Infinity War, as we are about to head into the spoiler review portion of this video. In 3, 2, 1, last chance. Okay, I warned you. Avengers Infinity War is much darker than any of the other MCU films. It's one of its pleasant surprises for me. But if you're someone who has to have a happy ending to a film in order to enjoy it, you may want to steer clear. Because Thanos wins. Yeah, that's right. The Avengers, the heroes of the film, lose. And they lose big time, with like half of them getting killed off. In this movie, the heroes blow a 5-1 Infinity Stone lead. I'm not sure if a lot of people believed what they were seeing because at the end of the film, it was so quiet in the theater. You could have heard a pin drop, it was so quiet. Throughout the entire credits, nobody said a word. They just watched everybody die. Thanos got all the Infinity Stones, killed off half the universe, including half the Avengers, and then the movie ended. So the ending of the film is a real downer. It may be the one Marvel movie you want to skip out on bringing your kids to. But for me, it's one of the reasons I loved it so much, because I'm like, wow, they actually lost. I didn't think that they would take it that far, knowing how much Marvel and Disney like to play it safe. So I was shocked and impressed by it. But I also know that this isn't really how it ends. They are going to make another movie, and it will be resolved, and these characters will be brought back to life, most likely with the same Infinity Gauntlet that killed them. It's been shown to bend space, time, reality itself in the film. Every time Thanos got his hands on an Infinity Stone to add to the gauntlet, more of these powers would be added to his arsenal. He kept growing stronger and stronger. And speaking of the Infinity Stones, I found it interesting that the largest one, the last one that he needed, the Mind Stone, fit into the back of the hand on the gauntlet instead of one of the fingers. And I couldn't help thinking that everything, all manifestation begins in the mind. I enjoyed how they made that seem like it was the most important stone, the last to get, the biggest one, stands apart from the others. He kept gaining more and more power with each stone that he collected, and when he finally got them all, he simply erased half of them. Half of them just turned into ash and blew away in the wind. But I'm sure they will return in the next Avengers film. One of my favorite parts of the film was when Thanos was explaining some of his motivations for what he was doing to some of the Avengers on Titan, which was his home world that had been destroyed. He said it used to be a paradise, and he tried to warn them about being out of balance and overpopulated. They didn't listen. They called him mad. And everything that he warned them about ended up happening. They ended up destroying themselves. And I really liked how they put that in there because it turns his motivation from theory, from something that may happen, to something that he has actually experienced. He warned them, they ignored him, and what he said came to pass. And because no one listened to him before, he has to take it upon himself to be the one to balance the universe. So I really enjoyed how they included parts of his background in the film. It really helps to explain his motivation, and they did a really good job at not making Thanos into some sort of monster. They almost make him relatable. I wouldn't go so far as to say they made him sympathetic or empathetic, but neither did they portray him as being like overwhelmingly evil either. So yeah, I really enjoyed this movie. And of course you're going to find plot holes if you look for them. Instead of killing off half the universe, he could have just increased the resources for half the universe. Once Thanos had all 6 Infinity Stones, he could have made that a reality. But then you wouldn't have as entertaining of a movie. There wouldn't be anything to fight over then. There would be no conflict. But if you're able to suspend your disbelief at the obvious solutions that the writers had to go out of their way to avoid, then it's a pretty good time. That is, unless you require a happy ending. As I said before, it ends very dark. There's like one old guy leaving the theater after the after credits scene who seemed kind of upset, asking other moviegoers, "Did you think that was a bad ending? You think that was a bad ending?" Another guy just looks at him and says, "No." To which he seemed just as shocked to his response as he did to the movie. "No, really?" Now, if you didn't know that they were going to resolve it later in another movie, then yes, I could say, wow, that was a terrible ending. But at the same time, he should know that. It should be obvious. They're not just going to kill off their money train. It's not going to happen. They will be bringing these characters back. At least most of them. I'm almost certain of it. So, yeah, there you go. Avengers Infinity War. I really didn't want to take up a whole video on this again, but I thought I would let you know what I thought after having actually seen the movie. And so, there you go. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, leave a like or share it. Follow me on Twitter at Frater Xavier, and consider joining us on Patreon, where every patron gets early access to Mystery School videos before they're available on YouTube. And with all that said, I'll see you next time. Take care.